Shat Acres was founded actually in 1915 by my grandparents.
What you're looking at is genetics that are so tight that every one of them is going to have the same traits we've been breeding for 58 years. When people ask me what makes Highland beef special, I say, how many days do you have? I've consolidated it to 3 things. So, conventional agriculture grows plants from soil. We're growing soil from plants, and we are constantly trying to improve the soil so that we have better quality feed. Oh, we're the last of the breeders that had any animals that they purchased from XX Ranch, who started the American Highland Cattle Association.
How can that continue? So we are at a beautiful place. I mean, that view right there is, I don't even think the camera can do half of its justice, but we're in a beautiful place called Shat Acres. And you're Janet, and you're Ray.
Yes.
And this is your guys' farm. You've got a registered Highland herd. Here in a second, Ray's gonna tell us all about what's going on. Miss Janet is gonna go track down, what's his name?
No,
Phoenix.
Phoenix.
He's going to tell you about
that's
Yeah.
what
Shat
you just
Acres.
said.
Yeah.
He's going to go track down Phoenix. I'm going to tell you about the rotational
Oh, I'm going
grazing.
after Phoenix.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're going to tell about Shat Acres and the
When I get
history
back.
of it. No, right now to start it off.
oh, then I'm going after Phoenix.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So Ray's gonna tell us a little bit about how this farm has been founded and its history, and then he's gotta go chase down Phoenix because Phoenix got lost, and we're gonna move these cows in a second. So Ray, tell me a little bit then about how this farm was founded and what you've got going on here.
Shat Acres was founded actually in 1915 by my grandparents. My dad took it over in the mid-40s with a herd of registered Ashers cattle. What one time was one of the top herds in the United States. One time they had one of the top females in the United States in the history of the Ayrshire breed. In 1966, my dad had a friend in Vermont here who had one Highland cow. Her name was Eldon's Lassie, but everybody knew her as Scotty. And Scotty was pretty unique. She was very friendly, big set of horns. She was also had a brand on her side. Nobody seemed to know where she came from. So our artificial inseminator at the time for our dairy herd looked in her ear. She had a tattoo in her ear. And with these brands, he was able to track her where she came from. And she'd come from Edgemont, South Dakota. She had come into New York on a rail car and gone to New Hampshire. A guy had purchased her and maybe some other ones, I don't know how many. Not too long after he purchased her, he got killed. And the cattle were dispersed, and Charlie Richardson went to New Hampshire and bought this cow and brought her back. So in 1966, Charlie was an older gentleman. He had a heart attack and couldn't take care of his cattle. My dad purchased Scotty and some other animals that Charlie had. That started the herd here. Nobody knew what they even were. Back in the 60s, they were hippie cows. And my dad started taking them, found some other ones in New Hampshire and Massachusetts, and started purchasing them and to build his herd. At the same time, he started taking them to local fairs. He did numerous fairs every year. He would go to Danbury, Connecticut, and the last year the Danbury Fair was 1978. In the 10 days of the Danbury Fair, 250,000 people went through that. And so my dad put cattle in front of millions and millions of people.
Wow.
He also, he loved taking them to fairs, and he loved his Highland cattle. So he had them, and he didn't do much with them except for take them to fairs. He did that all summer long and into October. My dad passed away in 2009, my mom in 2008. They were elderly. My dad was 98 and a half years old.
Wow.
And it's an interesting thing about him being competitive, the family was. His sister died a few years later. In her obituary, she was 98 and 3/4. So they had to put that in the obituary. My dad was very athletic. He used to catch cattle with pit bull bulldogs.
Oh my.
He caught 468 head of cattle with pit bull bulldogs in the state of Vermont.
Wow.
And there's a write-up about him in one of the local newspapers about what he did. He did that up until 1960. Then he stopped catching cattle. But he went on to have his Highlands, and he was very proud of them. He, like I said, he would take them to fairs and take excellent care of them. But then Janet and I, he didn't have anybody really take over them. Even though I had brothers, nobody was interested in the Highland cattle. Janet here, my wife now, started taking care of them. We started going to competitions with them throughout the United States. We've showed as far west as Denver, Colorado, the National Western Stock Show, many
Wow.
years, plus Louisville, Kentucky, Cambridge, Ohio, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania,
Some great livestock shows I'm hearing.
Syracuse, New York, and Harrisonburg, Virginia. We showed until 2017. I don't know how we ever did that now, looking back at it, because Janet was teaching school. By the way, Janet's a Teacher of the Year in Vermont in 2002. And I run a tree business. And we did all that, plus took care of the cattle, and also would go to these competitions every year. I don't know how we did it.
It's crazy how you make it work, right?
It was a project, and like I said, we look back now, we don't know how we did it, but now people come here, and we have an Airbnb that Janet was her idea, and she's very good at entertaining people. This Airbnb, people come, and the thing they come for is to pet a Highland cow. And they love them, and they get their pictures taken. They got cattle up here at the barn that you're going to pet in a little bit. But anyways, I'm going down and get
Phoenix.
who?
Phoenix.
Mr. Phoenix.
He's sort of given up, Ray.
Oh, he laid down.
He knows somebody will rescue him.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Thanks for the history, Ray. That is an amazing history, and I love how like the family just kind of stumbled into it, right? Like it's not exactly something anybody was trying to do, it just showed up. Is your herd registered?
So, just going back to Ray, Scotty, the cow that his dad bought, it turned out that she was from the first registered Scottish Highland bull imported into the United States. So that was just amazing. We have the oldest registered fold of Highland cattle in the United States, descended from the first bull imported from Scotland.
Wow.
Carol, Ray's dad, had no idea when he bought this cow. And it was only because the artificial inseminator was fascinated with these two X's on her side. She came from the Double X Ranch in South Dakota, who started the American Highland Cattle Association.
Wow.
And so we are the only breeders that are still in business that ever owned an animal from the XX Ranch from South Dakota.
Wow.
So a lot of people are fascinated with our herd because we've been doing it so long. So since 1966, this is the 58th year. The average Highland breeder keeps Highland cows 5 years.
Why is that?
Well, they need a lot of food.
Yeah.
They get big. They have horns. You don't put them in a kennel when you go away. They reproduce, and all of a sudden you have more than you thought you were going to have.
Yeah.
And what do you do with them?
Yeah.
Right now, Highland breeding stock is incredibly popular. Just like the people who come to the farm stay, people who come to farm tours, for some reason, Highlands are just making people feel good.
Yeah.
And they are a comfort animal. They are the only bovine that really want to be in relationship with people, and you'll see that when we go up to the barn. I do think that COVID had a part of it, is that people bought land. They need to take care of their land. They've decided to do things that are going to make them happy, something that they always wanted.
Yeah.
And so Highlands are just incredibly romantic right now.
Yeah.
We started when Ray and I took over the farm. We didn't know it, but his dad, it was in bankruptcy. Family issues with the brothers had taken advantage of Ray's dad. He asked Ray and I to save the farm. He actually told Ray, your mother and I are being evicted, and there's a truck on the way from Kansas City to pick up the Highlands. Can you save the herd?
Oh, wow.
And so we were faced with trying to get a loan to pay off the bankruptcy, which I was able to through the Vermont Agricultural Credit Corporation. We made our last payment on the farm in May of 2021.
Wow,
So
congratulations.
we've been paying off that bankruptcy for a long time. But
Wow.
Ray's dad said, you have to save these genetics.
Yeah.
They're the oldest genetics in the United States. And that's what we've been doing. To do that, I discovered that Highland beef was the best beef I'd ever tasted.
Really?
I had just finished reading Omnivore's Dilemma, and I said, this is an animal whose time has come. They're the only breed that will marble on 100% grass, and I'll tell you more about that when we go into the beef room.
Okay, okay.
And they are the tenderest beef. We did a study with the University of Missouri with Dr. Brian Regan, and he was astounded to learn that the Highland beef is tenderer than Angus, Hereford, Charolais, all of the commercial breeds.
Whoa.
And there's a reason for that, which I'll tell you later.
Okay, okay. I'm so interested.
So we started selling Highland beef, and in the beginning, we had to both build a market and build the herd. So Ray's dad had about 30 Highlands. We built it up to 170.
Is that where it's at today?
No.
Okay.
Thank goodness.
That's a lot of cows,
we have
but
never had any hired help. We had to build the herd and build the market at the same time. So in the beginning, we did purchase some Highlands. They had to be 100% grass-fed. They had to be pretty consistent. It was crazy. We were driving to Pennsylvania to purchase one animal for our beef market. Over time, we built up our own herd. We have not purchased a beef animal in 10 years.
So you have a closed herd?
We have a closed herd. So there's two parts of that. We have a closed Highland herd, which means we have not brought in a female in 45 years. So what you're looking at is genetics that are so tight that every one of them is going to have the same traits we've been breeding for 58 years.
Wow.
We bring in bulls so that we are changing up the genetics, and you'll see Rocky is Rocky is the black bull, and we'll see him more closely. Ray's dad liked red cows. We always had red cows and red bulls. I tend to do the long-term planning, and when I realized that people were buying Highlands for lawn ornaments and pets and wanted to look out in their field and see a lot of different colors. Highlands can be registered in 7 colors. We bought a black bull, and we now get about 50% black calves and 50% red. And 50% of those red are going to be brindle, and you'll see a brindle bull when we go up to the barn. The closed herd, we breed for docility first. Good legs, good feet, good udders, long straight backs. We're known as Shat Acres square because if you look at these animals, they could fit in a box.
Yeah, look at her right there.
They're straight top line.
Yep, very good structure.
They don't drop off on the back, and the dropping off on the back is not just an aesthetic thing. It makes it more difficult for calving. That long straight back gives them wide pelvis and easy calving. This herd is known throughout the United States basically because we've been doing it so long. And people want history.
Yeah.
This is the history of the Highland breed in the United States.
Yeah.
It's right here.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about our pastures.
Okay, let's walk through it.
What we do.
Yeah.
We do intensive regenerative cell grazing. I learned about it from Ranching for Profit.
Yep.
We're all learning all the time. So we have 16 cells, and they're in a cell for only 2 or 3 days, depending on the time of year, the rate of growth of the grass, the moisture, and then they move to a different cell.
Okay.
I tell people it's not really important where they are, it's where they're not, because that is resting.
Yes.
Conventional agriculture grows plants from soil. We're growing soil from plants.
Yeah.
And we are constantly trying to improve the soil so that we have better quality feed. We are grazing twice as many animals on this acreage than we could if we weren't doing the intensive cell grazing.
I totally see that. So we had just 5 acres when we were farming in Indiana. And we started out with just putting chickens out there, and then we had cows, and then we had pigs. And on like 3.5 acres of pasture, we could finish 12 calves, 13 hogs, and over 1,000 chickens every year.
It's amazing.
It's incredible what it does. I mean, the growth is astronomical. I mean, our fields would be over my head before anybody was cutting hay.
I tell people when I change paddocks, I am so happy when the cows put their heads down, they sweep with their tongue, and they grab this big mouthful of grass.
Yeah.
So this area right here, this is called the sacrifice area, and this area is where every paddock opens into, so that the cattle can get to shade, and so they can walk back up to the barn where our frost-free waterers are.
So this is what you call it, cell grazing, because
Yes.
they're not in a pasture. You're not moving waters.
No, we're not moving water. So that
Okay.
is one
Okay.
one system. We chose to do a system where the paddocks are stationary, and we have a sacrifice area that allows them to get to the water and to the shade.
Yeah.
It's pretty graphic. So this sacrifice area, they have access to all the time. I'm just going to take a piece of grass. So, how much surface area is there for the sun to do photosynthesis?
Not a lot.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
So then we go to a paddock that has been resting, such as this. And you look at this. How much surface area is for the sun to regenerate?
So much more.
This is not going to regenerate. That's why it's called a sacrifice. We are sacrificing the rapid growth to allow them to get to the shade and to get to the water. When we take them out of a paddock, when it is no less than 3 inches tall. So we don't want it to look like that because it's not going to regrow.
Right.
They don't go back into a paddock until it's at least 6 inches tall so that you have that good regrowth that we're looking
Yeah.
for. They're not hungry, as you can see, but it's sort of like us if we have a really big dinner and then someone says, "Do you want dessert?" And you go, "Oh, I'm really full. But what do you have?"
Right.
So they know that they're going to get, when they see me, they think they're going to get dessert, even though they're not hungry. But the calves grow better. The cows make more milk. Everybody's happy. The paddocks, by doing this, I see every cow every day. We had a guest here at the farm stay who said, "Where are your horses?" I said, "Horses? We don't have any horses." He said, "How can you have cows without horses?" And I said, "Well, why do we need horses?" He said, "Well, how do you move them?" I said, "Let me show you." I don't need horses.
Yeah.
They just see me and they're going to move.
And I think that's a difference too. And unfortunately, we're not going to make it out west with our travel journeys, but I think that's a difference with the west versus the east side of the U.S.
Yep.
and how farming / ranching / cattling kind of works, that you don't, it's so compact
Well,
out
we're a
east.
tiny farm. We're a tiny farm
Right.
compared to out west.
Right.
We might have a big Highland herd, and people who live in the cities might think we have tons of land. But compared to out west, in Vermont, 1 acre of land will support an adult cow with good quality grass.
Right.
Out west, sometimes it's 100 acres
Right.
to support an animal.
Yeah.
So we have 40 acres here,
Okay.
and right now we're pasturing probably 50 animals.
On 40 acres.
But it's not 40 acres of pasture
Okay.
because a lot of that's woods. We've
Yeah.
got about 25 acres of wood.
That's
So
awesome.
we're doubling the amount of animals
Yeah.
because of the regenerative wood. Before we started doing this, I would have everything all over the fields, and I'd look and I'd say, we're out of grass. But with these cells, there's always grass. And I tell the people who come for the farm stay, I said, you're going to be a farmer because you can look and you can see which cell they need to go into and which cell they just came out of because it's a different color. And so I'm going to bring them up into
'Kay.
this paddock.
Yeah,
We're
let's do
going
it.
to go right out and you're going to see them walk right by you.
Let's do it. I think that's great.
Okay.
And they're ready too. They're like, oh, the
They're
humans are
more
moving.
ready.
The humans are moving. Are we moving?
So this is a cow-calf operation. People say, do you get milk from the cows? And we say no. The milk is not our product. For a dairy farm, the milk is the product and the calf is a byproduct.
Right.
For us, the calf is our only product. The only thing that we have to do every year is save every calf. Both because it is our economic viability and also because that's our obligation to these animals.
Yeah.
They work all year. I cry every time I just think about it. They work all year to grow a calf. And it's our job to make sure that that calf is alive and well and that they can nurse it for 6 months. So we're going to step outside.
Okay.
I'm going to open the gate.
Okay.
Hi, guys. Are you hungry? Are you hungry? Come on. Come on, Destiny. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Bring your babies. Hi, Ivy. Can you believe how quiet it got? Come on. Come on, Tart. Bring Phoenix. Poor babe.
That's
Hey,
a good
Rocky.
looking bull right there. Oh my goodness.
Hi, handsome.
It's a good looking bull.
He is magnificent. He came out of Coldwater, Michigan. And what was great when we looked at his genetics, he has Shat Acres in his genetics from 4 generations ago.
Seriously. You're like, I
And
just
said,
bought my own cow
That's
back.
it. Yeah.
I think that a lot of people, especially maybe those who aren't as familiar with cows, get even more intimidated with the horns. Do you see that too as people are buying some of your genetics?
Definitely. I tell people Ray grew up around horns and thinks nothing of it. If he took a pail of grain out to move them, he would have all of them crowded around them with their horns. And he'd just say, back up, back up. If I took that out and they all crowded around me, I'd throw the pail. I did not grow up. In fact, I didn't grow up farming at all. I grew up on Long Island. So this has been a steep learning curve for me. And we tell people when they purchase an animal, before you purchase an animal, be sure you have infrastructure. You need to have a handling facility. You might not need it today, you might not need it tomorrow, but the day you need it is the day it's too late to say, I wish I had a handling facility. A squeeze chute, a barn, a place where you could contain an animal. If you call a vet, particularly with Highlands, and you say, I've got an animal that I'd like you to see, and they say, where is it? And you say, well, it's out in the field. They're going to look at their watch and they're going to say, you know, I think I got another appointment today. So when a vet comes here, an animal is in the squeeze chute and ready for them, and they know that the animal's going to be safe and they're going to be safe. If there are people who say, well, I'm not sure about the horns, I might think about taking them off, I said, buy another breed.
Yeah.
Buy a belted Galloway. Don't buy a Highland. Because their horns are their identity.
Yeah.
We don't take their horns off. Which leads us to, you probably saw some out here without any horns.
Uh-huh.
Those are Highland beef shorthorn crosses.
Okay. I thought I saw a shorthorn cow out there.
It's a Highland shorthorn cross.
Okay.
Because in Vermont, the slaughterhouses do not want horns.
That was my next question.
So that's the other thing I tell people, if you're buying them to raise beef, be sure you have a processor who will take the horns. By the time a Highland is big enough, because they grow slowly, their horns are going to be too big to go through the head gates in the slaughterhouse. Look at Phoenix, he says, Mommy, I was so sad out there. Don't walk away, Mommy, don't get too far.
She stayed there quite a while so he can nurse.
Oh, that's a good mom right there.
Well,
They're all
they'll
good
stop, and everything else will leave. That calf is nursing. That cow won't move.
Yeah.
That calf is done nursing now.
So Ray actually fortuitously remembered that in Denver, Colorado, 50 years ago, Ray?
Yeah, at least.
The carcass competitions were won by Highland beef shorthorn crosses. I was teaching school and I got a call and he said, I got you a birthday present. And I said, but it's not my birthday. He said, well, it could be an early birthday present. I said, what did you get? He said, I got you a shorthorn cow. I said, I don't want a shorthorn cow. He said, you will. So he had gone to a show. A lot of times in the beginning, I couldn't go to shows because I was teaching. And he went to an auction in Harrisburg.
At the show.
Yeah, at the show, and bought a shorthorn cow, Samantha, and brought her home, and we bred our Highland bull to the shorthorn cow. And we got an offspring that was polled, that didn't have horns.
Okay.
Grew twice as fast as the Highland, and the meat was exactly the same. So Highland beef is so heritable, because it's not been genetically altered, that if it is bred to another British Isle breed, the meat is the quality of the Highland, but the growth of the beef shorthorn. So for a while, we bought, did you buy 3? You bought 3 shorthorn cows that we bred to a Highland bull. And he said, we're going to need more shorthorn cows. I said, wait a minute. I had an epiphany. We had a whole herd of Highlands already. Why don't we buy a shorthorn bull?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so we bought, it was not easy to find. We found a registered, polled shorthorn bull in East Stixfield, Maine. Started breeding some of the Highlands to the shorthorn bull and some to our Highland bull. So we were producing registered breeding stock and we were producing beef animals.
So here's a personal question then. My best show heifer was a shorthorn, but she was a shorthorn cross. She could not produce a good calf. She was an amazing cow, like as a heifer. Her structure was great. Her body composition was perfect. She had a little bit of an attitude, but she was good. Her name was Starbucks. But when it came time to breeding her, could not get a good calf out of her. And then her legs fell apart. Do you see that?
Definitely not. The crosses, and I can show you them out here, they're exceptional. So no, I actually was just telling someone that the shorthorn crosses are such good mothers, and they're much easier to work with because they don't have that incredibly possessive attitude that the Highlands do. You don't have to worry as much about them saying, get away from my calf. They have beautiful udders. They have nice small teats. We love the shorthorn cross and the offspring. So this white one out here.
Oh, that's a shorthorn?
This is Bunny. She is 3/4 shorthorn, 1/4 Highland. Her mother is White Sox.
Okay.
This one right here. She produces amazing calves. Her calf this year is black, and we sold another black one that she had.
I think it's behind her. I'm assuming he's black.
Yep. So that's her calf. They grow fast. Look how much taller that animal is than the Highland.
Oh, because like this one right here is like short.
Yep.
And yeah.
No, we have not had that problem. This one, you're probably too young for Sesame Street.
Oh, not even a little bit.
Do you remember the song, Which One of Us Does Not Belong?
Yes.
Which one of us is not the same?
Yes.
Do you see Zelda?
The Belty out there? Yeah.
So Zelda is the first that we've ever had with any Belty in it. And the way that happened is her mother, Zora, who is right behind Bunny. I mean, look at Bunny. Bunny is a magnificent animal.
She's got like a shorthorn head, but I definitely thought she was more Charlet because of how white she is.
Yeah. So behind her is Zora. And Zora was at a pasture on Berlin Pond, which is just outside of Montpelier. We have people that love having a couple of Highlands for the summer to keep the land open, to just go and comb and pet.
Yeah.
And so Zora was at a leased pasture. I don't say leased, we give them some hamburger. And there's Zora. And that's Zelda's mother.
You're kind of like right there.
And so he called and he said, something really bad happened.
Oh no.
I'm really sorry. And I said, what happened? I figured that she'd gotten out, got hit by a car.
Right.
He said, well, there was a belted Galloway bull next door, and I think he bred Zora. I said, that's terrific. So we ended up with this cross that is now half Belty, 1/4 Shorthorn, and 1/4 Highland. And she has the funniest personality. She loves to play. She will get on top of a manure pile, and she'll try to beat that up, and she'll go up to other calves and get them to play, and they say, like, we're trying to grow.
That's hilarious.
Mommy says I'm not supposed to play with you. But she's pretty funny because she's so different looking. Technically, our Highland Shorthorn crosses are our beef animals. These that are here are breeding stock, and they're producing more either beef animals or more breeding stock. We have people that want to buy Shorthorn crosses, and we have a lot of roan. White Sox is a little bit roan, but we have in Greensboro some really roan heifers. People love them, and so we're happy to sell those as breeding stock. We would rather our animals go as breeding stock than beef.
Yeah.
We'd rather they live a long, happy life. So I started to tell you that to sustain the herd when we were paying off the bankruptcy, the beef was the majority of our income. So I would say for almost 20 years, it was about 75% beef, 25% breeding stock. It's now about 60% breeding stock, 40% beef. Would you say, Ray? Because breeding stock is so popular. But the breeding stock has helped us be more sustainable because the breeding stock is worth more than the beef at this point. So we're happy about that.
So how big is your herd now then?
We've got about 70 animals total. That includes all the calves. So as the calves go to their new homes and the calves, we're selling all of the offspring. So we are not using replacement heifers at this point.
Okay.
For a couple of reasons. One is that allows us to use Rocky, our bull, wherever you went, for many years.
Over there, behind you.
Yep.
Or
so
behind
we
me.
can use Rocky for many years because we're not saving his daughters.
Yeah.
And that's because we are downsizing. We were up to 170 animals. We're down to 70. We're selling the other farm, and our goal is to have maybe back what his dad had, maybe 30 animals. That will make it easier for us. We'll sell some breeding stock, we'll sell some beef, but we won't have this many animals.
You mentioned about the beef being your income driver. So now that you kind of flopped that, is it still income focused on the breeding stock? How does the farm like pay for itself, I guess?
So the majority of the income now is breeding stock. These calves, so these calves that are out here, they are almost all sold already.
Wow.
And they're on deposit. And particularly with the heifers, we can sell all of them that we can produce. Bulls are not so easy because everybody needs one bull and a lot of cows.
Yeah.
Last year, Rocky gave me 15 bulls and 4 heifers.
Aww.
I said, don't ever do that again. That was a big challenge. We've done pretty well with it, but the income is these calves. And that's what I was saying, is that save every calf. We do gargantuan work to be sure that we save every calf. And we don't want any bottle calves. We want every mother to raise its own calf.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes it takes a while to get that to work. If the mom hasn't figured it out in the beginning, or the calf hasn't figured it out.
Right.
But we'll stick with it until we get that calf. And we couldn't do it without a squeeze chute. We just couldn't.
Yeah, so we were talking about horns and handling.
Yep.
So you have a specific chute
Yes.
for the long horns,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It's called a high hog chute. It comes out of Canada. I don't think you can get them anymore in the United States, but there are other good chutes. This is our store, or our beef room.
Oh, wow. Look at those banners. That is awesome. Ooh, you got a jacket for one of them? I'm jealous. I always wanted the chair. Every year that I won, they didn't give me a chair. I was like, can I just have a chair? Just want a chair, please.
So that jacket is mostly the result of this animal. This is Shat Acres Cinnamon Raisin. She's the most winning cow in the history of the United States.
She's beautiful.
She's a beautiful animal.
Look at that. She's got like leadership on her face.
Yeah, and she loved to be shown. She'd get in the show ring and she just loved it. And the reason that she won so many shows is because she showed in the cow-calf division. So with Highlands, you can't show them over 2 years old unless they have a calf by their side. And because she was just so exceptional at raising calves, she could keep going year after year in the cow-calf class. Much of the trophies up at the top, so those are all from Denver, those bronzes. And they're either Cinnamon Raisin or Cinnamon Raisin's offspring. So our last show was in 2017, and this Shat Acres Raisin Brandy was grand champion cow-calf. Her daughter went back with her calf and won grand champion in Denver.
Wow.
And she's right up in the field. She walked right by us. I didn't think to point her out.
You still have her?
Yep. We keep our animals a long time. Our oldest animal here is 18. She's up in the barn. We just put down Shat Acres Marge, who was 22 and a half.
Wow.
She had her last calf at age 20.
Wow. That's amazing.
Well, Highlands live a long time.
Okay.
And that's the other thing, is that when people buy a Highland, you have to make a long commitment. They're going to live a long time.
Yeah.
A lot of people sell their cows. We don't sell our cows. I could sell every one of those every single day because people are looking for Highland cows and Highland cows and calves. To me, that cow that was born on this farm deserves to live on this farm. We'll sell her calves when they're weaned, but we don't sell our adult cows. And the downsizing will happen as they matriculate out in age and by not saving any replacement heifers. So the beef, when people ask me what makes Highland beef special, I say, how many days do you have? I've consolidated it into 3 things. And the people that were here for the farm tour day before yesterday, they bought some beef. And she just wrote to me. She said, I couldn't resist. I ate 2 tenderloins. And she said, it was the best beef I've ever eaten.
Wow.
And I tell people that. And Ray always says, don't say that because it might not be true. And everybody says it is the best beef.
I am so excited
And
to
I'll
try
tell
it.
you why.
Okay.
So the first thing is what's on the outside. This hair. This is a steer that we processed.
Oh, wow. That's like
heavy coat.
Heavy and like cool underneath
Yep,
though,
yep.
but like soft.
And so the hair and the hide, and you probably have felt skins before. Mm-hmm. Can you feel how thick that is?
It was very thick. That is a lot thicker than I thought it was going to be.
A lot thicker.
Like you can even see
Yep.
that.
The first thing that makes the beef different is that most other breeds, in fact all other breeds, put a layer of fat on the outside of their body to insulate their organs.
Right.
And the Highlands, because of this thick coat and this thick hide, they do not do that. So all of the fat, even the CLAs and the unsaturated from 100% grass-fed, migrates directly into the muscle. So they will marble on 100% grass. In order to get other breeds to marble, you have to make them eat more so that they will go past that layer of fat on the outside and say, okay, I'm safe, my organs are safe, I can put some of the fat in the muscle.
That's so interesting.
How do you get them to eat more? I can't tell them out there to take a bigger mouthful of grass. I can give them the best quality I can and the most quantity, but I can't make them eat more than their body needs.
Right.
You have to give them grain, you have to give them corn, you have to give them hormones, you have to give them steroids. And that causes them to have enough fat that will migrate into the muscle.
You're saying commercially. You don't do that.
No.
Okay.
That's commercial beef. That's
Right.
how you can get marbling, because you overfeed them. You go past where they have that fat on the outside so that their body tells them they have enough to insulate, and then it will migrate into the muscle.
Yeah.
But you can't do that on 100% grass. So most 100% grass beef is pretty lean, and it's because the fat is building up on the outside and they don't have enough extra to go into the muscle. But this is what sends that fat right into the muscle.
That's so interesting.
Number 2, we're not picky eaters.
Heard that.
Most breeds will walk out into a field and they'll say, I like that clover, but I don't eat weeds. Or I'll eat that orchard grass, but I don't eat goldenrod. And so grass-fed beef actually has a pretty flat flavor, except for the Highlands, because they'll eat everything out there. You saw those fields. It looks like we mowed them. The complexity of what they eat gives you complexity of flavor. So it's sort of like a wine where you say, I taste hints of cherry or overtones of oak. It's because you're probably tasting some overtone of goldenrod or milkweed or milfoil or whatever that gives the meat a lot more flavor. We did a blind taste test with the state of Vermont and the Vermont Grass Farmers Association with 4 different grass-fed beef farmers. And the Highland beef was everybody's favorite. And the words they used were complexity. It didn't leave a fatty feel on the palate of your mouth.
Yeah.
It's very juicy and it's very tender. 1 is what's on the outside, 2 is we're not picky eaters, and 3rd is what I was telling you about Dr. Wiegand, is that when he did shear force tests, which you take mechanical devices to pull the meat apart and see how many pounds per square inch it takes, which is replicating what it feels like in our mouth when we're chewing,
Right.
is that he discovered that the Highland beef was tenderer than the other breeds that they had tested. So I asked why. The reason is that the muscle of the Highlands has more fibers per square inch, but they're thinner fibers.
Oh.
So it's like chewing angel hair pasta versus a piece of lasagna. You just don't have to masticate as many times. And that's what tells your brain this is tender. And so because the Highlands have not been genetically altered, it may be at one time that all cattle had thinner fibers. Not anymore. And so the Highlands still have those thinner fibers in their muscles.
Wow.
So that's what makes Highland beef different. And you probably know that beef is 30% how they're raised, 30% how they're processed, and 30% genetics. The Highlands go in 30% ahead. Somebody else can raise their animals really well, humanely, kindly. They go to a good processor, but they don't have those 3 factors that are genetically inherent in Highland beef.
Wow.
We are one of the few beef producers that is still a cow-calf operation. Most people are buying feeders and stockers.
Yeah.
And they buy them from Kansas and Indiana, where they can calve them a lot less expensively than in Vermont. The expensive part is keeping that mama cow. She's got to eat hay all winter. If you can graze all year, you can do it a lot cheaper. When you buy a feeder and stocker, you don't take any loss from a calf. Even the state of Vermont has said that economically, cow-calf operations are not the best way to raise beef. Well, that may be true.
Well,
but-
now wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense.
Because they said in Vermont, you have to feed stored forage for so many months of the year
Yeah.
that you're paying a lot to keep that mama cow. And if you buy your calves or you buy your yearlings from out west, you don't have to do that. And you raise them on grass and then you butcher them. And you don't have to keep them over winter. But we don't think that's how beef should be raised. We
Yeah.
think they should be with their mama for 6 months. We think that people should be able to come here and see how the beef is raised and say, that's the mom of that calf and she's lived here, she's 12 or she's 13. Our beef animals live the same life that our breeding stock lives. And what do you want the beef animals to have?
Well,
How many bad days?
One bad day.
one bad day.
Yeah.
If you look out there, you watch them cows, when they're standing there, that cow right there, all by herself, see how many steps she takes. Watch, see how much grass she'll eat between steps.
Good point.
Yeah.
They aren't walking.
Yeah.
You looking at me, she says?
Talking about me.
Hi, Bina. Hi, Bina.
What?
That's her name, Verbena.
Rabina.
Yeah.
That's a pretty name.
So this is a brindle bull.
Oh, I do see the brindle.
Isn't he gorgeous?
Yes. So he's going to stay that color.
Yes.
Okay.
So when he was born, he was red, and he looked like he was going to be red. But again, about 50% of the red turned this brindle color. He's dramatically brindle. Some of them have just a little bit around the face, but his whole face is almost black. And then he's got these tiger stripes.
Yeah.
He is so beautiful when he's combed out. We use a blow dryer, but look at the color of his bangs and the color of his back. So he is about 15 months old. He is one of the last ones that I haven't sold. So I've got to get him cleaned up and listed for sale. But he is a great bull. He's super tame. He loves to be combed already. His mother is Raisin Brandy, who was on that vest as the 2017 National Grand Champion. So his name is Brandy Alexander. So he's Alex.
I love it.
And we had somebody here, I can't remember what it was, somebody said, now, how do you tell which one is the boy or a girl? And I said, well, look and see. And they said, now, what's that thing back there? They said, that's his pocketbook. He keeps all the good stuff in
His
there.
pocketbook. So as we're coming to an end here, the history here, I mean, this really is like a history of Highland cattle. If you are one of the last, are you the last breeder? Is that what you said? Or one of the last?
So we're the last of the breeders that have any animals that they purchased from XX Ranch, who's American Highland Cattle Association.
How can that continue?
So people ask us about succession.
Yeah.
Ray and I have 5 daughters between us. None of them want to farm. The succession that I think is happening is selling the breeding stock. So Shat Acres is all over the country. We've sold to 31 states. And I think that's how the genetics will continue, is through their other people breeding and having those genetics in their herd. Ray and I aren't going to be able to do it forever. We are downsizing, but having the farm stay is going to allow us to have some animals, offer the joy of the Highlands to people who would never have the chance to be with them. And so in some ways, I feel like that is also sustaining it, is everybody who comes and walks away just with awe about what Highlands are and how beautiful the animals are. I feel like that's also another way to carry it on forever.
Yeah, I love that. Janet, thank you so much for showing me around and letting me hang out with your amazing animals. It really makes me miss cattle. I mean, I grew up with cattle, so anytime that I can get a Scotch comb in my back pocket and start rubbing on some cows is a happy day for me. So this has been absolutely amazing, and just thank you so much for having me out. I really appreciate it. And what a way to end our Vermont tours. I mean, this is so awesome. If anybody is interested in your farm stay, your beef, anything like that, we'll put all of the descriptions in the link below. We will put all of the links in the description below. And yeah, they can find you there. So no, seriously, anytime that I can have a Scotch comb in my back pocket and brush on some cattle, my whole day is made. So the fact that I was able to do that today makes me really happy, and it just confirms the fact that what we are doing is the right thing. We are so ready to get back on a farm. We are so ready to find a place to settle down. So yeah, we are going to North Carolina. We still have so many tours to do. We are not stopping our tour, so we aren't going anywhere, but we are also going to start taking you along with our farming journey. Maybe we'll go look at a farm property, maybe we'll go look at some animals. We're gonna take you along with all that we do. Thank you so much for being with me on this last Vermont tour. I will see you in Ohio.